In this interview, we hear from Naquan. He's 29 years old, living in New York City. He is a relationship research psychologist and shares how he found himself pursuing this career, as well as what his research has looked like thus far. Let's get started. Hi, Naquan. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a while, and I'm really excited to hear about your career as a research psychologist. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Yes, thank you, Bridget, for having me. So it's very, I guess you could say niche, but pretty much what I do and will be doing is studying different aspects of relationship psychology and relationship science. And what that entails is, doing a lot of background research and reading, and then sort of gathering ideas from that, and then trying to sort of develop a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
And then testing that out myself. And that involves doing different types of experiments. And I know a lot of people are very familiar with possibly like surveys and things like that. So yes, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But because I'm in the realm of experimental psychology, it can even go beyond that. So we can actually do actual experiments, actually control different aspects of what participants may engage in. And then from that, we sort of analyze the data, and then draw conclusions.
Awesome. So I know, backtracking a little bit, can you share a little bit about your education and how you came to find yourself specifically interested in studying relationships?
Yeah, for sure. So in high school, I developed a very close relationship with my guidance counselor. She was a huge advocate of mine, and I used to meet with her pretty much regularly. At first started mostly because of my aspirations for undergraduate, but then we just started forming, I guess you could say, a very close bond. And she had given me my first psychology book. And she was like, Naquan, I think you should read this. I think you would really like this. And it was a huge textbook. So obviously I did not read the whole thing, but I did read a good chunk of it. And I found myself drawn to certain principles of it. And I felt like I was somewhat connected to some of the things, the concepts that were mentioned in the book. And I was like, wow, like, I feel like I kind of do these things, or I apply some of these things, and I would want to learn more. I would like to apply more. So when I ended up going to undergraduate, I was keeping an open mind, and I came in undecided. Actually, it's a funny story. I actually came in with Judaic studies by accident. That wasn't my, I don't know. I think I must have clicked it by accident or whatever. And then it showed up there. I'm like, what's going on? Like, but
What
then,
am I studying?
what's happening? But then it was able to switch it easily to undecided. So I was stuck between doing psychology and law, and my undergraduate program didn't necessarily have a law degree, which most undergrad programs don't really have. But I did take what would be considered the introductory course for anyone interested in law. And that's the introductory course for psychology. And I found myself very, very close to what was being said to me in my psychology course.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I was like, I think this is what I want to do. And then I was able to see a talk done by Dr. Matthew Johnson. And he was talking about relationships. And I've always felt close to the concept of relationships. I've always found myself interested in it, but I never knew that I would truly study it until I saw him do a talk. And I was captivated by it. So I went right after and spoke to him. And he was like, oh, we're kind of full in our lab and stuff. I'm not sure if we'll be able to assist you, but you should explore different options. I know there are other options out in the lab. And he was very respectful, very nice. But it's not very common for undergraduates to be part of a research lab for an indefinite amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to every talk he had. I made sure that if he was teaching a course that I was able to take, I was taking it. There was one course I had with him, which I would speak to him every other week. So I try not to be too much a father, but I did it every other week. So he was very familiar with my name, and he really liked, the word he used was tenacious. And he was like, you know what, I'm working on something and I would love for you to help me with it. And that's how I started working in the Marriage and Families Studies Laboratory at Binghamton University. I started assisting him with his book that he was working on, which has already been out, which is The Great Myths About, I think it's The Great Myths About Intimate Relationships. And it's a very, very, very good book. And I did a lot of research on these myths, looking up things and sort of seeing the misconceptions that people have. And I just started getting captivated. And he really liked what I was finding, and he liked sort of mentoring me. So he pushed me to do certain research projects and sort of showcase some of that work to the university, to other conferences. And it sort of took off from there. And I knew that this is something that I would want to do. But there was definitely a lot of different things that happened since my undergraduate time, but that's where it pretty much took off.
That's awesome. So now, are you specifically interested in studying romantic relationships? That's where my mind goes, but there's obviously so many dimensions to relationships. So I'm curious what you're most interested in.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am mostly interested in what I consider non-Platonic relationships.
Okay.
And it's because I believe that there are different types of dating, and there's different types of ways to express, I guess you could say, a non-Platonic bond. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure I'm being inclusive in that manner. But yes, I do know quite a bit about familial relationships as well as friendships, and those type of nature. But my niche is more in the non-Platonic realm, which includes romantic relationships.
Awesome. And then maybe you can speak to one of the research projects you worked in undergrad or maybe graduate school. But what does that research look like? Is it quantitative? Is it qualitative? Are you, sitting behind a two-way mirror watching people have a conversation? Like, paint a picture.
Yes. So in my master's program at Seton Hall University, it was my first opportunity to really, truly lead my own idea and start my own idea. You still have to do sort of in the realm of what your advisor is doing. But she was very open, Dr. Susan Teague. She was very open to what I wanted to do. So we did what we can do with the resources that we had. And what we were doing was that we were looking at whether or not preferences for short-term or long-term relationships were dependent on personality. In the vein of commitment. And that was fascinating to do. So it involved a lot of research on different scales, which that took forever, because you want to make sure that you're measuring what you're measuring. So it was quantitative, but we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of validity, and we wanted everything to be very reflective of what our goal was. And so we did that. We did it at ANOVA. The research that we found was very consistent with what already existed in regards to extroverts, for example. So extroverts tended to like similar others, in other words, other extroverts, in both short-term and long-term capacities. But we found that introverts did like other introverts for long-term capacity, but that they were kind of up in the air when it came to short term. And then we also know that because of a concept called strategic pluralism, that some people do not necessarily know whether or not they're in a short-term or long-term relationship. So in other words, people can be engaging with others, not necessarily knowing how this relationship will go. even though depending on who that other person is, would be an indicator of essentially how it may go. So for example, I always just make up names. So if Billy and Sally, right?
Yeah.
So Billy is very energetic, very hyper. He loves being adventurous, hiking, and all these things. And Sally is a little bit more reserved. She likes, reading quietly in a room, very low key, doesn't really socially engage. But Billy wants to form a relationship with Sally because he finds her attractive and he likes the fact that she does certain things. So the research suggests that based on who they are right now, that they would not be long-term. But Billy may not see that, Billy may see that, wow, there's some aspects of her that I would like to introduce to myself. Mm-hmm. And she may feel that same way. And that's a concept called the self-expansion model. And that's done by Dr. Arthur Aaron and from Stony Brook University. And that concept really struck a chord with me because it suggests that this may be one of the reasons why we engage with people who are different than ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because if we know that that the research suggests that our relationships will last longer if we're with a similar other, why do we engage with people who are not similar? Mm-hmm. Because there's this draw, there's this interest, there are aspects we want from them or we want to obtain from them. And it doesn't mean that it's impossible to form a long-lasting relationship. It's just maybe a little bit more harder, more challenging.
That's interesting.
Yeah, right? I know, it's very fascinating. So that's kind of the realm of what we found and I was able to share in multiple conferences.
That's awesome. I can only imagine how rapidly your field is expanding just due to new technologies and complexities to relationships. So I don't know, I guess I might keep an eye on research that's published on this topic. I'm interested in it as well. As you know, I studied human development in college, so it always kind of piques my interest.
Yes, for sure. Yes, It's a very interesting field.
Yeah, awesome. So maybe could you tell me a little bit about where you see yourself in your education and professional career going over the next couple of years? I know that's an incredibly difficult question, but what are your wants? What do you want to see for yourself?
So I want to say that, this path hasn't been the easiest. And I think it's one of the things that I have had to accept, and I have navigated through it to the best of my ability. But I am just now embarking and starting on my PhD career, and where I'll be doing more research and leading more projects and assisting others on various different projects, but they're pretty much all relationship oriented. So that's what I'll pretty much be doing still in a couple of years. But the long-term goal is to be able to assist people in different industries. So I know there's a lot more, and it's kind of what you alluded to before about different technologies that are going on. So dating has been, touching different aspects of our world in a lot more prolific ways. So for example, we have a lot of TV shows that the dating shows are not getting a huge popularity. That is something that was not,
It's driving me crazy.
Yes, I know. I have mixed feelings about them, to be honest. But it's interesting that they're so attractive, that people are so into them. So that means that there's room for people who want to learn. They want to know something. And I'm not sure if these are the most reliable sources, but I do understand the intrigue. And then you have different dating apps starting and growing, applications forming within different industries like Facebook and Google. And I can see myself sort of leading projects in those realms, and being able to sort of do some behavior analytics in order to help people sort of understand each other or even connect more.
in undergrad, a professor described you as tenacious. Is that a quality that you think lends well to someone who wants to get into your field? Is it hard to break into? I know, as you said, it took you a little while to kind of nail it on the head. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I think being tenacious is good, but you don't want to be overbearing. So you want to consistently demonstrate to people that this is what you want to do. And I think my undergrad advisor was very smart and wise in the sense that, he's just not going to take anybody. I'm sure he gets a lot of people saying that they want to work with him, but you need to make sure that the person who wants to work with you really wants to do this work. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to, in order to weed out those people, that person has to consistently demonstrate that they want to be a part of this world. So the challenges I ended up, sort of going through was that after my undergraduate program, I knew I wasn't quite ready to go into graduate school. So I was looking for work, but there was no work for me to do really in relationships. And I found myself working at a behavioral treatment center. But even there, I found myself, teaching as an auxiliary role, health relationships versus partner abuse to all the different kid residents. Mm-hmm. So that was something that I found within that job. And then, I started working for Alliance for Positive Change, which used to be called the AIDS Service Center in New York City. And even in that space, I found myself doing a course called Voices, which is authorized by the CDC. And, and that's about, condom safety and safety practices and how to do what we called condom negotiation and things of that nature. So you're able to sort of have these dialogues and explain to people how you're able to talk to people in regards to doing safer sex practices. Mm-hmm. So I've constantly been doing things that are not necessarily what I want to do, but I find what I want to do in them. So, and that is what I tend to highlight in my profile or in my resume, that this is what I've done. This is what I've been able to do. And, and most recently I was working at NYU Langone Health, and I've been able to sort of learn a lot of different, I guess you could say, biological practices, which is going to come into play because now I'm going to be in a relationship and physiology lab. So these different things end up tying together. And I think when people see you, they're like, wow, like he's done all these different things, but also look, he's been doing relationships here, 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 and here. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important to do it. It's what I tell my sister too all the time. It's like, if you want to have this role, or you want people to perceive you in this way, just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice, honestly, because so few people, I think, out of college get their dream job or what they think is their dream job. And you really just have to make the best of it. I know in my own career, I kind of found my niche within my role, which is not really anything I had wanted to be doing. So I think that's really applicable. So I think that's great advice. So as we're wrapping up here, do you have any final words of wisdom for anyone, whether they're in high school, maybe they're looking to do grad school, any additional advice for getting into the realm of relationship research?
Absolutely. I would say that in general, I would say if you're passionate about something, continue to do it. And, I have, there's been times where I'm just like, I'm not doing anything relationship oriented right now. I need to be doing something, So then I started doing, YouTube videos, and I did that for a while. And then I started doing my actual research, and that was good. And then it started slowing down again. And I was like, oh, I need to do something. Then I started blogging, and then I created my own website. So, you have to just keep doing things. And I just want to drive that point home because I think it's important. But when it comes to relationships research specifically, I would say just keep connecting with people and keep trying your best to sort of volunteer or even just be in those spaces. if this is something that you want to do, just learn more about it. And I think you can go the distance.
Awesome. Well, Nay, thank you so much for joining me. I personally very much enjoyed this conversation because it's something I'm interested as well. So thank you again for taking the time, and I hope you've inspired some future relationship researchers.
Thank you. I hope so too.